So a few years ago, I had a really touching experience. I actually was on an exercise walk in Chicago, and the phone rang, and I thought it was my own children calling me, so I picked it up even though I was on vacation. And the woman on the other end was crying, and it was a voice that I recognized, and she was crying. And I said, "Oh, Mrs. Smith, how is it that I can help you today?" And she said, "I'm actually crying tears of joy." And I said, "Oh, well, help me understand that better." And she said, "Do you remember the mantras that we wrote several years ago, and I hung them on my fridge in order to stop yelling and be more present and loving with my children?" And I said, "Of course I remember that." She said, "Well, I hadn't used them for a while, but this morning when I passed my fridge and I saw them hanging on the fridge, I started to cry because I realized I didn't need to look at them or read them anymore. They actually had become a part of me." That interaction really, really touched me and continues to today. And in large part, it's why we created the mantras. Parents over and over again tell us, we buy into we shouldn't punish our kids. We don't want to punish our kids. We don't want to yell at our kids. We don't want to scream at our kids. But we have no idea what to say, think, and do in the moment when things are explosive and they're really tense and everybody's kind of spilling over or flipping out. So I just want to give you an example in real life of how a mantra could be used. And this is kind of a variation on another sweet little true story. So I don't know if you have kids like this, but a lot of children get into the car after school, right? And they have really focused on in their studies, and they might have taken a test, and they're tired, and they're worn out, and they might not have eaten for several hours, and they get into the car and have a diatribe of criticism for you, their wonderful parent. So Johnny gets in the car, and he's like, "Mom, you made me a horrible lunch again." And you're like, whoa, your defensive brain wants to say, what the heck? There are lots of kids starving around the world. You're lucky you have a lunch. But instead, you breathe, you understand that it's your child's biology, his hunger and his fatigue that are driving him to spill all over you right now. And so you respond calmly and thoughtfully using one of your mantras, maybe that you've created yourself. And you say something like, "It's disappointing when you open your lunch and there's a soggy sandwich. You were probably so hungry." Okay? Now he's starting to calm down, but that does not deter him. Now he's on to the next thing because he's got a lot of energy inside and he's had a really frustrating day, and he says, "And you forgot to pack my soccer shoes." And you want to say, "It's your job, bud, to pack your soccer shoes," but you don't, because you want to raise a calm, skillful, intact, thinking kid. So you don't want to kind of activate the defensive brain. So you say, "God, Johnny, it's really hard when you don't have the right shoes that you need at school." All right? Now he's starting to soften up a little bit. He might have a little more for you. But the thing is that you're staying calm and even and level and reasonable, knowing that once his limbic system is calmed down, you're going to circle back later. Maybe it's going to be at dinner tonight. Maybe it's going to be at bedtime in the morning. You're going to circle back and actually help him develop some strategies to make sure maybe he packs his own lunch, or maybe he puts his shoes in his backpack. But that's not for now. When the child is intense and upset and angry and spilling over, your job is to use the mantras to just have a calm interaction so that your child can come back to you and say something like this. And this is a true story. Once the child was in the car and the mother had not caused him to escalate, he said, "Hey, Mom, did you say we were going to play tennis today?" That's how the Bloom mantras transform your relationships.